Have you ever heard statements like bones are dangerous to dogs or high-protein diets can cause kidney failure? The confusion surrounding how to feed our dogs is widespread, and there are many contradicting opinions about pretty much any subject you can think of. It's easy to unknowingly follow incorrect information after reading an article or watching a video, only to find out later it's not true. So, in this video, I'm taking on 5 of the most common food myths to bring you explanations as to why these are being spread and whether they are true or myths indeed. Myth number 1. If meat is listed as the first ingredient, it's a quality dog food. Oh, I like this one. It shows creativity and the lengths the pet food companies go to sell their food to more inquisitive dog owners who become more and more knowledgeable about the importance of high-protein diet to their pets. When you look at the back of the label, by law, the ingredients should be listed in descending order based on their weight during the manufacturing process. So, just hypothetically, and not to step on anyone's toes by using real labels, if we were to make food from 20% potatoes, 25% meat meal, 5% herbs, 10% animal fat, 20% lentils, and 20% potato flour, you would have to list them like this: meat meal, potatoes, potato flour, lentils, animal fat, and herbs. Looks good, right? Meat is listed as the first ingredient, so what's the problem? What food manufacturers usually do to make their food look better is called ingredient grouping and ingredient splitting, which in our case could look like this. In the ingredient splitting, 25% meat meal, 20% potatoes, 20% potato flour, 20% lentils, 10% animal fat, 5% herbs. And using the ingredient grouping method, 40% potatoes with 20% potatoes and 20% potato flour, 35% meat with 25% meat meal and 10% animal fat, 20% lentils, and 5% herbs. In the ingredient splitting example, you see that the less appealing ingredients, potatoes, are split into 2 entries, potatoes and potato flour, to appear later in the list, but together they make 40% of the food, more than meat, which previously was listed first. In the ingredient grouping example, meat meal and animal fat are grouped together to make it appear as if there is more meat in the food. But now the potatoes are listed first. So do you think the food companies stick to either grouping or splitting and keep it consistent? Of course not. They pick and choose whatever will look better. And if you look closely, potatoes and lentils are carbohydrates, so when you actually compare the ratio of 60% carbs to 35% protein, it suddenly doesn't say quality, does it? And on top of that, meat meal isn't the best source of protein. First of all, what meat was used? If it's not specified, it can be anything. Do you know how they make it? It's a topic for a whole new video, so if you want us to cover it, let us know in the comment section. So, what's the verdict on this one? It's a myth. Meat as the first ingredient does not always equal quality. While it's better to see meat listed first than cereal, always check the labels and compare the ingredients and their quality. Educate yourself about pet food labeling tricks to know what to watch out for and make informed decisions that will benefit your dog's health in the long run. Myth number 2. Dogs thrive on a vegan or vegetarian diet. I had to cover this one, especially now that I'm seeing more and more brands selling strict plant-based foods for dogs. Nicely packaged and creatively advertised, making dog owners believe going vegan is the best option for their beloved pets. So how are dogs equipped to thrive on a plant-based diet? Let's start with the basics: canine ancestry and anatomy. Today's dogs are descendants of the grey wolves, which are classed as carnivores, meaning they primarily eat meat. Both have the same number of teeth, 42, consisting of 12 incisors, 6 on top and 6 on bottom jaw. These are small teeth found at the front, used to cut small pieces of flesh off the bones and used for grooming. For canines, otherwise known as fangs, again 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, these large and sharp teeth pierce into flesh and hold the prey. 16 premolars, 8 at the top and 8 at the bottom. They shred the meat away from the bones and work together to slice through the meat like scissors. 10 molars, 4 at the top and 6 at the bottom. These are smaller and are used for grinding the food, not cutting. As you can see, dogs not only have teeth that are made to eat meat and bones, but their jaws are hinged, so they can only chew up and down, not side to side like herbivores or omnivores. Dogs also don't have digestive enzymes in their saliva, meaning their digestion doesn't start in the mouth. Instead, they bite off large chunks of meat and swallow them whole, thanks to a stretchy esophagus. Carnivore's stomach represents between 60 and 70% of the total capacity of the digestive system, with the small intestine, where food absorption takes place, is short, only about 3 to 5 times of the body length. This is because meat is relatively easy to digest, so the small intestine doesn't need to be longer, like in plant-eating animal, where it can be more than 10 times the length of the animal's body. Dogs' stomachs are also very acidic, which helps kill bacteria in the raw meat. So if you're worried about that, well, nature took care of it. And even though a dog's pancreas produces amylase, the enzyme responsible for breaking down complex carbs, it doesn't produce enough for a dog to thrive on a carb-rich diet. Some breeds lack the gene coding for pancreatic amylase, AMY2B, or have fewer copies. And these are Huskies, Westies, or Chinese crested Chihuahuas. Because the gut is responsible for over 70% of your dog's immune system, it's the most important defense mechanism against toxins. And if you're feeding foods containing grains and legumes, your dog's gut is at risk of inflammation, allergies, and even autoimmune diseases caused by high levels of phytates or lectins found in them. Phytates are antioxidants found in legumes that can bind to many minerals such as zinc, magnesium, calcium, or iron and prevent your dog from absorbing them, which can lead to mineral deficiencies. Lectins, often described as antinutrients, are carbohydrate-binding proteins that can be found in potatoes, grains, peas, or lentils. Their function is plant protection, as plants can just run away from danger. They produce inflammatory responses against the animal that consumes the plant, so it won't eat it again in the future. At high levels, they can cause damage to the small intestine, compromising the gut integrity and causing inflammation. There are many more reasons I could give that support the statement about dogs thriving on the plant-based foods being a myth, but I want to keep this video short, so here's the last one. The importance of proteins, the building blocks for everything from cells and hormones to organs and muscles. They are made from amino acids, and dogs require 22 amino acids, 10 of which they can't produce in sufficient amounts. These are called essential amino acids and must be supplied in the diet. Deficiencies of any of these can, over time, lead to health problems such as dilated cardiomyopathy, anorexia, lethargy, liver disease, neurological issues, leaky gut, dermatitis, and more. Yes, plants contain amino acids, but 1. The levels are low, meaning you'd have to feed a lot of them, and 2. No single plant protein is a source of all 10, so they would have to be carefully selected to meet your dog's nutritional needs. And because of that, you will see a list of vitamins and minerals added to plant-based dog foods. The manufacturers need to manually top up the foods to meet the requirements to sell their products. I'm not saying these nutritional mixes aren't being added to other dog food types, because they are, but if they have to be added in the first place, doesn't it mean dogs can't get everything they need strictly from plant-based food? Don't get me wrong, I love vegetables and I give them to my dog daily, especially dark leafy greens, but they form around 10% of his diet, not 100%. I just think that from a nutritional standpoint, a strict plant-based diet for dogs can cause more harm than good if fed throughout their lives. Also, we don't have studies that examine the health of dogs fed these diets from puppyhood to senior years yet, as it's a relatively new trend. So whether you are vegetarian or vegan yourself, or simply want to reduce your environmental impact, your pet's welfare should be a priority, and that can only be achieved by feeding a species-appropriate diet. Because even though dogs can survive on a plant-based diet, it certainly doesn't mean they will thrive on it. Myth number 3, lamb is hypoallergenic. This one is definitely a myth. You can put any other protein in place of lamb, but the statement will still be a myth. Why? There is no such thing as a less allergenic meat. All dogs are individuals and can have different sensitivities, one to chicken, the other one to lamb. But let's start with a definition of a food allergy, which, simply put, is the dog's immune system's overreaction to a normal dietary ingredient that causes a negative reaction, such as inflammation of the skin, ear infection, diarrhea, vomiting, and so on. In other words, the immune system mistakenly treats a particular protein as a threat and releases antibodies to fight it. Any food can cause an allergic reaction. However, almost always an allergy is linked to a protein source. Lamb is usually recommended for dogs thought to have allergies, as is often a protein they haven't had before, hence why there is a less chance the immune system would react negatively to it. Interestingly, a dog can develop an allergic reaction to a food it's always been on. So if you've been feeding only lamb, there is a chance that at one point your pup becomes allergic to it. Another problem is that we are still seeing cases of not all proteins being declared on the dog food labels, making it even harder for pet owners to know what's causing the allergies. In the study from 2018, the authors analyzed 40 different dog foods and found that, quote, 10 presented a content that correctly matched the label, while 5 did not contain declared animal species, 23 revealed the presence of undeclared animal species, and 2 had a fake label that did not allow the evaluation of its accuracy. And the products used for testing were novel protein diets, where novel means one that a pet hasn't eaten before, and hydrolyzed protein diets, where a protein is chemically broken down through hydrolysis to make it invisible to a dog's immune system. So dog foods you would most likely pick or be prescribed by your vet if you were dealing with an allergy. And if there is a problem with these foods, can you imagine the state of standard foods? What if you think your dog is allergic to a protein because it's listed on the label, while in reality it's allergic to another one entirely? Myth number 4. Dogs can't eat bones. Well, in my opinion, that's the biggest myth on our list so far. Dogs can and should eat bones. Not only will their dental health improve, but they will also become healthier and calmer overall. Dr. Gary Beard, a pioneer in veterinary dentistry, pointed out that heart and renal failure, as well as hepatic compromise, could be a direct result of poor oral hygiene. Links to other diseases were made to the same cause by other vets in the past years, making dental health an important part of our pets' well-being. As animals, they are born to rip, tear, and crunch on bones. The way their jaws and digestive systems are built, which I touched on earlier in this video, is proof of that. Chewing on bones is not only a satisfying experience for your pup, but feeding raw meaty bones ensures they get enough nutrients to grow and stay healthy, especially calcium and phosphorus, which are abundant in bones. But not only that, there is also zinc, magnesium, manganese, iodine, selenium, iron, and chromium, to name a few. In his book, Give Your Dog a Bone, Dr. Ian Billinghurst writes, "Bones are the storehouse of all minerals your dog requires in perfect balance and in the perfect form for optimal absorption with no excesses or deficiencies." Of course, you should use caution and educate yourself on what types of bones are safe for your dog. In general, there are some safety rules. Bones should only be given raw, never air-dried, cooked, or smoked, as these can splinter and hurt your pup. If your dog has never had any bones before, start with softer bones such as chicken or duck wings, turkey necks, lamb ribs, or pork tails. Of course, choose a size that's appropriate for your dog. As a rule of thumb, the bigger the bone, the better, but ideally at least the size of your dog's head. Hold one end of the bone while they chew on the other. Don't worry, you'd only have to do it a few times if your dog has absolutely no idea what to do with them at first. But I assure you, once that animal instinct kicks in, they won't need your help. Bones shouldn't consist of more than 10% of the overall meat, as too much bone can result in constipation. That's just an average though, as with everything else, some dogs do well on more whilst others on less. Observe your pup's poops and you will soon figure out just the right amount. And the last thing, avoid weight-bearing bones, especially if your dog is a heavy chewer, as these are too dense. Myth number 5. Homemade food is better. This is a controversial one, but that's exactly why I wanted to address it, especially since more and more dog owners are now switching to homemade diets. And yes, I absolutely agree that commercial foods are in most cases not great quality and leave a lot to be desired, but they are, at least on paper, formulated to meet the nutritional needs of animals. Whenever I meet a pet owner and we start on the subject of diet and they tell me they cook for their furry friends, I ask, how do you ensure their meals are complete and they get all the nutrients they need? In most cases, I'm met with a blank stare. And this is nothing against them. I know they want what's best for their pets, but feeding a mix of the same ground meat, rice and vegetables without any bones, organs or other necessary bits can actually create more harm than good in the long run. For example, the meat itself contains about 4% of a dog's calcium requirements. So if you're feeding a puppy only meat during the growth stage when it needs calcium the most, you end up with a pup suffering from various health issues like hypocalcemia, panocytitis, or hip and elbow dysplasia. If your dog is not getting what they need from the food and you're not supplementing their diet to meet nutritional needs, well, you can see why I decided to include this one in our list. Of course, if prepared correctly, homemade food is much better than commercial food. It's freshly prepared and you know exactly what's in it. If you decide to switch your pup to a homemade diet, educate yourself to know what they need to live a healthy life. There are many cookbooks, recipes, and other resources available online, so do your research. And don't let that scare you. Not every meal needs to be balanced, and it would actually be unnatural for a dog to eat perfectly balanced meals every day anyway. So this one is not exactly a myth, but if I were to make it a truth, I would add not all at the beginning of the statement so that it would say not all homemade food is better. Remember, when it comes to feeding your dog, knowledge is key. Always scrutinize food labels and educate yourself on your pet's dietary needs. Whether you opt for commercial dog food or homemade meals, ensure they balance and provide essential nutrients for your dog's well-being. As you navigate the world of canine nutrition, stay vigilant, stay informed, and most importantly, prioritize your furry friends' health and happiness. If you found this video helpful, don't hesitate to share your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. Like this video? Check out our mental simulation games for dogs.